But coming up, we're going to talk strength of schedule because, Oklahoma's got the toughest one. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We got March Madness coming up in the third segment because Oklahoma's going to be playing. But we got to talk toughest strength of schedule, and that's Oklahoma. ESPN SP Plus came out and ranked their strength of schedules, and Oklahoma was number one.
Yep, and everybody else is just jumping on it. On threes, Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman also dropped their top 10 toughest schedules at Oklahoma. Of course, number one on the list, but it makes sense. You know, when we saw Bill Conley drop the SP Plus, he pointed out all the returning production and players to keep your eyes on and things of that nature. The big thing with that is that Oklahoma's got it tough. You know, we've got a lot of up-and-coming SEC schools on our schedule this year. The good thing, I'm going to be honest, John, the good thing for the Sooners is you still got a lot of young quarterbacks you're dealing with this year. So we're going to be hitting them on the uprise, whereas next season when things kind of switch up, good chance we don't have to deal with all of the big problem children like everybody else. We get a little bit of a break. But no, on a serious note, us in Florida up there very high with Arkansas right behind us. But Florida and Oklahoma having the toughest schedule is not a surprise either, right? You know, we've got Texas, you know, we've got Bama, LSU, which I think LSU is going to be really good this season. They're going to be a problem. Tennessee's getting a second year with Nico Yamaliava, so I think that's going to be a fun one to deal with. South Carolina's up and rising, and Lenore Sellers is already becoming a household name and a guy that everyone's saying that, you know, NIL-wise is that dude. So when I look at it, man, and then, of course, Michigan, you know, they're still a blue blood regardless of what people think, and they won a natty in the last 2 years. There's a lot of tough ones, but the good thing is, like I said, Oklahoma's dealing with more teams that are got younger quarterbacks. We've got first-year starters. We've got guys that may be in a program for a couple of years. We've got to see what they can be, but you don't have a lot of returning production at the quarterback position besides really Sellers, Nico, as well as Garrett Nussmeier. The rest are, you know, guys we can see what they're going to be. How are you feeling about this schedule, this toughness that we're going to be dealing with?
Well, I wanted to ask you this, actually. What's a team on the schedule do you think that is going to be better than what people might be projecting right now?
Ooh, man. I think the team that's probably going to be better than projected, it might be Alabama. I know it's weird to say, right? Alabama, not, you know,
right.
Not projected high, kind of weird. Yeah. But, I mean, we're still in, you know, the Kalen DeBoer era, but because Ryan Grubb, offensive coordinator, that just got hired recently, he you know, he was there with DeBoer up there in Washington. He stayed in the state of Washington and took a job with the Seattle Seahawks for a year, and now it looks like the Seahawks is blowing up their entire team. So he is now come down and he's working with Kalen DeBoer as his offensive coordinator, and that to me can be a game changer for them. Yeah. I think that's going to make them sneaky good. But honestly, I think that they're the one probably that jumps out the most. Who's the team that you think is going to be a little bit better than expected?
Well, I was just going to say, Ryan Grubb, I mean, he followed DeBoer across several stops. Like, yes. He's been with him for a very, very long time. So you talk about, you know, alignment in your offense. That's going to help Alabama's offense to, I think, be better than what it was even last year when it was pretty good at times, save for the Oklahoma game. But for me, I think the team that maybe stands out that could surprise a few people, Missouri. I don't know why I'm saying Missouri. I think they might be a little bit underrated, but you know, the more I learn about, you know, Drew Pribula, the more I'm kind of intrigued by what he might be able to do. And listen, they've got a schedule like last year that is cheeks. It's not very good, and it's going to have them threatening for 10 wins again, just because it's not very good. But I also think that maybe they might have a chance to be a little bit better than what people are expecting. Who's a team on the schedule you think could be worse than what people are projecting right now?
I hate to say it, South Carolina.
Okay.
I think that they're going to be a very good team. I don't think they're going to be as good as everybody's trying to advertise them to be. I struggle with, last year was a very good year and it came out of nowhere. Like I said, Norcellis surprised everybody, but he's not going to surprise everybody next year. He's going to have to go out there and produce those numbers again. He's going to have to show everybody in the SEC that he is as good as advertised, and that's not always that easy to do. I think that could be the game that the team that may not be as good as everyone thinks. It's between them and Texas.
You're just going to leave it like that? You're not going to say why Texas? No, I'm just going to drop it on there and say Texas.
Just drop the bomb on them. No, on a serious note, with Texas.
No, but I agree with you on it could potentially be Texas because we did the same. I did the same thing last year, right? They lost a ton of players and I expected them to suffer a bit of a drop off. The thing they had going for them though, is they had quarterback continuity, offensive line continuity, and that kind of thing matters.
And they did good in the portal when it came to the defense. For me with Texas is they've done a great job of recruiting. They're going to be very young this year. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this year's the year where they'll be really good like last year. I think next year they're going to be a really big problem because of just how well that they've recruited. It's stacking that talent. But sometimes when you're at that point where it's just a lot of young players, you kind of need that one more year to get for them to really just take the leap over the edge. And it looks like, I think next season is where, not this coming season, but next season, Texas is probably going to be one that, they could truly compete, especially if they can get Arch to come back one more year. That to me is the year where you'd be like, there's a good chance that Texas could be playing for a natty. For like on a serious note, actually winning playoff games, because then they'll have all that young talent sitting there as redshirt sophomores and redshirt freshmen and a couple of juniors that have played, over 1,000 snaps. That's where their problem's going to lie. So I think this year you may see a slight drop off because Sarkisian's done a really good job rebuilding that program, but I think that next year is when you're really going to see an issue with Texas.
And I could see them potentially missing the playoff, but just kind of being right on the cusp. I do think that they're still really good. You got Anthony Hill Jr., you got Colin Simmons. I think Arch is going to be good. Ryan Wingo, dude, I don't like to throw a lot of praise on Texas players, but that kid has a chance to be a star, like a legit, talking about him in the similar light as Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, kind of a star. He's just that good with the ball in his hands. So there's potential there for Texas to be good again. I think they could still miss the playoff. For me, it's Ole Miss is going to have a big drop off. They lost so much talent off of that team, and a team that only won 9 games and missed the playoffs and lost to Kentucky and had Oklahoma threatening to upset them as well. It was a good team last year, should have made the playoffs, but didn't, and they lost a ton of talent, like a ton of talent. And I don't know that they've got the leadership like a Jackson Dart ready to take them to the next level and help them make the playoffs. I think they're going to suffer a big drop off, and that's one of those games on the schedule. I'm like, if I'm looking at it and I'm projecting right now, Oklahoma's winning that game, and they should absolutely win that game at home against a team that is not going to be as good as it was last year. Speaking of teams coming up with big wins, the Oklahoma Sooners pulled one off against the Texas Longhorns. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.